Now loading.
Oliver, how's everything been going?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, besides some personal stuff that is life always presents itself. Things have been really good on the slow living side of things. I think always hard to answer that question, honestly and truthfully. And a lot of the the business is it's a lot of work, but it's also really enjoyable
Mhm.
to work on your own projects and something that you love doing and that you can and see it working and people loving the products and seeing them in people's homes is really satisfying. But there's a lot of work behind the scenes, which is you know it's great fun, but it doesn't happen just overnight. So it's a nice
Mhm.
reminder to take it slow and just enjoy the ride. And there's not really a kind of big what's the word, like, motivating factor towards it all. But
Mhm.
I guess the main thing that drives me is just to have enjoy making nice designs and be creative with my work and have people sort of see see those products in people's homes is a really fulfilling, like, part of it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's growing each sort of month, and um, we're developing new products, and then also trying to establish production in America, which is also another thing that's, like I was saying before, there's a lot of attention that needs to be, that part of it needs to be given a
Mhm.
lot of attention. So you don't always get the chance to.
Mhm.
Some of the creative stuff gets taken away, and it's just important to
Yeah.
keep the balance between, obviously, letting the business roll and survive and keep things, you know, keep being able to offer the products to, like, in different places, different markets, but also not lose sight of the thing that got me into it, which was designing products and being
Yeah.
creative with the branding
Yeah.
and the graphic design and stuff. So it's a bit of a kind of always a juggling act between the things that aren't always the most fun and creative, but they're the things that do keep you being able to do the fun and creative stuff. So yeah,
That is true. Yeah.
that's
So
the
so how are you finding, I guess, juggling the creative stuff,
Hmm.
which is what drives you and what like inspires you, but then also like the business stuff, like the stuff that's actually gonna allow you to continue to build and create things.
Yeah, I think I find the business side of it creative as well. It's in different ways. It's not kind of pen and paper creative, but it's, um, how can I think of partnerships and collaboration and meeting people and getting the products seen in different places and build relationships with retailers or other other brands or other creators that like the product, and we can have a good, like yourself, who can have we can have a nice conversation around design and the things that
Hmm.
inspire me there, which is, in theory, marketing the business. But I don't see it as like, oh, I've written down a marketing structure
Hmm.
and going
Hmm.
to follow this to the letter. It's more like, who can I meet that's doing cool stuff that I naturally want to have a chat with and would do anyway, even if it wasn't my work. And how can I go about doing more of that stuff, that I have nice conversations with people doing their thing, doing their project, and how can our worlds overlap and collide that
Hmm.
brings exposure to us both. Or one conversation could be talking about design and the influences there, but also um, uh, other areas, just kind of starting up a small business or working or starting a business in London, or how you balance that work life balance between doing your creative project, but also keeping a business running without sort of losing the integrity that you started with. So I think it's, for me, it was always about, like, the business part was, how can I naturally, like, one of the business goals was also, like, to spend more time in countries that can get to travel with it. So as long as I'm doing that, I see
Hmm.
that as a bit of a success of the business as well. So we want to set up in
Hmm.
America, in the future, I'd love to be in Japan. So how can I create opportunities to take the business there? But really, a lot
So
of that
like
is
planting the seeds,
yeah, and a lot of
like
that isn't
planting the
like, oh, I
seeds
want
ahead
to
of
sell
time.
loads in America. It's more like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to spend more time there and experience that design culture. And the same with Japan or Europe.
Hmm.
So how can I meet different people in those areas or design communities across design? To some extent, like fashion as well. Is a design
Hmm.
product, and a lot of the customers that I've met are in uh, creative industries or doing creative projects or have built a really cool home and are inspired by the same references that I am. So it's bringing me more and more like joy meeting the people. Do
Hmm.
And I think you're doing a business to sort of make money and scale and grow and fast pace and stuff, you never really kind of enjoy the ride, and you're
Hmm.
not left with much at the end because
Hmm.
you've just kind of used things as stepping stones to get to the next goal. Whereas with
Hmm.
Slowe, I've always thought, well, if I try and connect with the people that I like and are inspired by, and maybe I'd love to do a project with that brand, or I'd love to get that person involved, or that musician to sit on the sofa and you know it'd
Hmm.
be seen across culture. That naturally, I think I'm
Hmm.
like bringing in the worlds that I'm naturally interested in. So as a business part
Hmm.
of going round the houses a bit with the answer, but the biz
No, this is that's good.
the
That's
business
good.
is like, well, I never wrote a business plan, but I thought if I can c- cement the product into culture the same way other brands and
Hmm.
other design pieces have, then I think
Hmm.
it's like always going to bring me kind of nice opportunity just by being authentic to the things I'm interested in.
Hmm.
Obviously, the business has got to make money, so planning that and making sure that it had a future and it was sustainable.
Hmm.
I wasn't just jumping into the deep end. Obviously, I've been, a bit more
Yeah.
methodical there. But so, I think as a creative and someone that enjoys and that's always been self-employed, it's like, you've got to look at both parts of it, the business and the creative part. But I really think
Hmm.
they can if both are kind of halfway there, a lot of it will just carry itself because it draws in people that are interested in the design or the brand or
Hmm.
and I'm not just speaking about Slowe Living. I'm talking about generally any other
Hmm.
far more talented creative people than me as well. Like I think the work just pulls in an audience and people like
Hmm.
the art or the music people are making. I think that's why
Hmm.
the more you
Yeah.
can stick to that kind of philosophy, and Slowe Living has always been inspired by those people that I guess have been really good and consistent in tapping into that kind of authenticity and just owning that and letting that be the thing that eventually brings the success, not
Drives it.
to go like where the money is, but like be, you know, why can't a sofa brand be, you know, um, talking about the outdoors and living and design and art, and that's what I like anyway. So, do you know what I mean? And so trying to be a
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
not I'm not trying to be different for different sake, but I just want to do stuff that is fun and that I enjoy and
Yeah.
I would probably want to talk about regardless of flogging
Hmm.
sofas. But
Yeah.
uh, no, it's a good
But
question.
yeah, we spoke about this like when we catched up
Mm,
like earlier in the year. We spoke about how a sofa bed, the sofa beds that you're making too, can be, you can kind of use that as like a platform
canvas thing.
to
Yeah,
bring together all different things that you're interested in, and that becomes the ecosystem around it.
100%.
You
Yeah,
know.
I think it's. I'm trying to think like other examples across culture where like Medicom toys. I don't know. That just come to my mind, but how that was one
Hmm.
product, but then a lot of brands could apply their
Hmm.
canvas to it, their
Yeah.
creativity to it. So
Hmm.
I kind of want that to happen. Within a kind of controlled way that feels right for the brand.
Hmm.
It is
Yeah, like
essentially.
you mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, go on, yeah,
Yeah, like you mentioned, like an artist performing on your sofa bed.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's
Mm.
genius. Like that could happen. That could
Yeah,
that
I
could
mean
be.
that's a lot of it is like this comes back to the answer to the question that I just that you just asked was how rather than, oh, here's a sofa, like, and present 4 options, and this one is the best at price and the best in comfort and the best,
Mm-hmm.
it's got these perks. I'd rather like continue to make Slowe something about another products that I add on to that, being like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I saw this, I saw an artist sitting on that, or I've seen, an artist painting on it, and that's like, oh, that feels like, when I live in this home or I'm looking for a sofa bed, I'm in the market for it. It's like, well, I like that one because it's kind of culturally connected in a way, and without sounding too lofty and cliche, but like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be a vehicle for doing like cool, well, stuff I find cool and
Mm-hmm.
creative. That we could do music events, and that's sort of the plan, and it's just like time and budget to make that happen. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do an event with musicians, jamming on it, or and I love jazz music, so that'd probably be
Mm-hmm.
like a
That'll be
jazzy.
perfect. That's an intimate vibe as well. Damn,
Mm. Which,
they're sitting on the sofa. Maybe they play guitar, maybe they play an instrument,
yeah,
and it's intimate. You know?
yeah, I
Yeah,
think that, and people remember those sorts of things. So it's not really about the sofa; it's more about the musician. But subliminally, you're seeing it in the space which I want to create, which is
yeah,
inspired by music and record
yeah,
labels of the 70s and
yeah,
80s and whatnot, and just imagining kind of like where this sofa could have lived if it was a classic. And obviously,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's mindful enough to not say that this is a classic, but I'm always inspired by classic designs. I think, like, where
yeah.
else have you seen classic stuff? And like, you
Mm-hmm.
look at like when I think it was Kennedy was talking against Nixon, and he was on I forget which chair it was. I think it was Arnie Jacobson chair, or maybe Finn Newell,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly that chair's like popular, but
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
how or what PR or team managed to get that product on
yeah,
that
yeah.
stage at that moment. But I'm thinking,
Even
how do you
yeah,
do like that? What cements a product in culture, and I'm trying to
yeah,
find those moments, and that's sort of what
yeah.
drives me, because they're the things that are fun. Yes, making design, and again, I keep coming back to the answer you asked me before about the business, and that's like, well, the business is like, how do you manufacture those? That's the wrong word, but how do you create or reverse engineer those moments to happen where the
Mm-hmm.
product is in those places, not for kind of a
Mm-hmm.
forced PR thing, but just naturally like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm interested in like what the London jazz scene is doing now, for example. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's something there, or like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, what's the podcast that is talking about things that I'm interested in? Maybe there's something there, but rather than forcing it, but just naturally trying to make those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I
the
think
product
it's like
gets seen,
yeah,
and
go.
you kind of like, because it's not something you buy on an impulse, so you kind of want to see, um, you want to see it a few times around the place before you go, oh yeah, I saw a podcast with a guy chatting to someone that I knew on it, or yeah, I saw a band play on it, or do you know what I mean? Or it was in a
Mm-hmm.
music video. These are all the things, like, from the business side of it, I think about,
Mm-hmm.
rather than what trade show can I do, which
Mm-hmm.
they're important, and I want to do those, but I'm almost thinking like, what are some more fun ways that I'd like to that would give me a bit more kind
Yeah,
of excitement to do.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and what other countries could I'm inspired by that I'd like to visit, and maybe this business could give me more opportunity to travel to or spend time with and get under the
Mm-hmm.
culture, under the skin of the culture, whilst I'm out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
because once you expose yourself to a certain culture in a certain part of the world,
Mm.
now you can start thinking about, okay, how do these sofa beds, how could these be integrated within this type of culture? How can I take a piece of that and integrate it into what this sofa bed is and what it represents?
Mm. Yeah,
Because
and
it's lifestyle at the end of the day. So it's about, from my perspective, it's
mm,
about, okay, how can you integrate this sofa bed within all these different things, these different creative things, these different forms of lifestyle.
yeah,
How can that be like the platform to connect all of those things? It's
yeah.
almost like the sofa bed is like a platform, is like a vehicle, and it's connecting the dots
I
with
yeah,
everything
and
else.
it's definitely how I kind of think about it and want to do more of. Yeah, I, I think there's so much choice out there. Um, why do we sort of buy Apple, or why do we buy over
Yeah.
another brand?
Hmm.
I really believe it's the
Nike.
stories and the stuff at night. Yeah, the stories and the
Hmm.
stuff that's sold, and there's amazing design now in the furniture industry. But one thing I don't think necessarily I see a lot of is kind of the same kind of, I don't want to use the word marketing, but it is at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Brand building,
Branding. Yeah,
storytelling is
branding.
the word that people like to use, I guess, to
Yeah.
soften the commercialism behind it. But
Hmm.
it is true. What things what stories can you create? I.e., like the stuff you're talking about, like a musician playing on it, or you know trying to avoid politics with it, but like how the funeral chair ended up in between the debate between Nixon, and that kind of works in that
Yeah.
setting, very sort of
Yeah.
formal. You look good when you sit on it.
Yeah.
You're quite statesmanlike and
Hmm.
proper. That's what a piece of furniture can do. Whereas I guess my piece of furniture is designed in the opposite, which is like, how can you feel more relaxed and slumpy and just chilled, and takes you to a place where you're just recharging and feeling rested, or getting that moment's escape from something that's been, like we all have every
Hmm.
week, whether, um, whatever things you're carrying around of the week, you can come
Hmm.
home and just rest on it, take an hour, take a moment to yourself. And I think whether, or that moment can be with children or your partner or connection. And, again, it's getting a bit lofty and stuff, but I think that's what furniture can do if you break it down. And it'd be nice to, I like the idea of thinking that there's sofas out there in people's homes, like today on a Sunday, that people are probably chilling on, or having a cuddle with their partner or their child, and
Hmm.
that's a really nice, from a designer's perspective, or any creative's perspective. It's a really nice feeling that something you've designed is being used in someone's home, and hopefully for a very long time. It's
Hmm.
quite hard for a product to last forever, but if we can repair it
But
and
it's
replace,
almost like,
then they can have it for a long time.
yeah, it's almost like what you want the physical product to last as long as possible. You want that to have longevity, but you
Mhm.
want what it also want what it represents within people's lives to live
Yeah, that's
for
the
as
kind of
long as
more
possible.
important thing in a way. Is like,
So
yeah,
how they see it, how they see, like how they view it within their lives,
exactly,
you
yeah.
want
And
that
that's
to
what
live
I'm interested
for
in,
as
and
long
it's
as
probably
possible.
something very different to what I imagine it to be. I like to think that the kind of core things about Slowe, just to keep it on track, is, um, in no particular order, is like the comfort is the most important thing. For a sofa, you've got to be comfortable, and that
Mm-hmm.
applies into, like, whether that's comfort, like, physically comfortable sitting on the sofa, but also comfortable in the sense, like, I'm comfortable in that own space of mine, just for that 45 minutes of peace and quiet, or that 45 minutes comfortable just being with my partner alone, chilling, having quality time, whatever it is, whatever your definition of comfortable is, to be yourself, and to be, not, again, trying to get lofty, but I do think about this now when I'm kind of thinking about what could the next graphic or content be. At the end of the day, we all just want to be kind of comfortable within ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
confident, and find that inner peace that you know is often can be hard to find in modern world and stuff. And I talk a bit about this on the website, but um, it's also important when, just on the way here today, I just saw a guy on a scooter just singing out loud and listening to music, and he was in his zone. And I thought, that guy's happy and got that moment to himself where he's happy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I feel like, I think is really important, and kind of I'm trying to catch on to, with the
Mm-hmm.
brand. And being slower, doesn't mean sitting on a cushion, being
Mm-hmm.
zen and meditating so much. If that's your thing, then that's it. But it also can be that guy going down the road on a scooter, singing, just feeling
Mm-hmm.
like he's in that moment, that flow
Mm-hmm.
state, as people call it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a super rare thing, and that's, in other, we've talked about this before, but
Yeah.
brands like Nike, keep pushing, you can do better, you can do harder. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a time and a place for that,
And
for
they
sure.
and
I'm
they
more,
never mention their product. They never sell the
yeah,
product.
yeah.
They
But also,
sell, they sell, they sell the values. They sell the ideas,
mm,
the principles. That's what they
yeah,
sell. Once you bought into that, they let you connect the dots with their product.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
They don't connect the dots themselves. So they'll
yeah,
push the ideas and the values.
mm,
Then they'll let you do it. Once we've done it, we're locked in with the product
yeah. And we're loyal to it.
because we've connected the dots ourselves. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
100%.
and
And I think
that's
you need
what they've
to,
continued to do.
yeah, and then the brand marketing geniuses, and
Yeah.
it's I look at that all the time, and I think as a brand it's incredible. But I think as the message, it's a common one that we see that is you can do better. There's kind of always the chasing the carrot mentality slightly. Get fitter, get wealthier, blah blah blah. And sure, I'm not going to comment too much more on that, but like I think sometimes it's like, just being still
Oh yeah.
chilling,
True.
resting is
True.
enough, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
god,
Yeah.
I've got to be fitter and sexier now. Jesus Christ! So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think slow living in a way, connect the dots to connect is a little bit like, yeah, you're as good as you are right now in a way, and that's okay, being slower, maybe not the fastest or the best, is always great, and I think come as you are is kind of the undertone of the dots that I'm trying to connect,
Hmm.
and that's
Slowing. Would you say like slowing life down, like being connected to the
oh,
moment to the point where you can slow things down if
yeah,
you want to.
I'm always mindful of being or creating a message or a brand, and all brands try and peddle some spiel, because I'm the worst for it. I'll be thinking like, oh god, I'm doing too much. We're going trying to get into America and stuff, and that brings work, and I have a great amount of pleasure doing that and sort of trying
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm mindful of the own message, but at the same time, it's kind of a bit of a reminder to myself that actually I'm happiest in a way when I'm kind of doing the least, but something
Okay.
to create more and be active and doing stuff, and it's just the way
Hmm.
my brain works a bit, really. So it's a weird one, but I'm also happy when I'm creating and I'm kind of like, oh wow, I'm speaking with a manufacturer in America, like that could be really
Hmm.
exciting. Just go with the flow. I think half the reason I chose the production to be in Cornwall is because I like surfing, and I thought, well, I'm all right at it. I'm not good at all, but it could be, oh, maybe this is an opportunity to spend a bit more time down there and get better at surfing over the years. And I'd
Hmm.
like to be doing that into my older years and stuff. And I remember
Hmm.
seeing a surfer kind of down in Cornwall, probably in his 60s or 70s or something, and I thought, that's he's great, and he's obviously been doing that his whole life. Maybe he got into it a few years before, I don't know, but I assumed he'd been doing it for a while, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool that to be able to do that in that sort of age. So thought I'd like to
Yeah.
progress that, and looking at other
Yeah.
artists and places I'm inspired of, like where craftsmanship and skill and that sort of thing is a lifelong pursuit, really. Um,
Yeah. Right.
you
Right.
need
Right.
time and you need to be
It's not a
focused and
destination.
stone on it. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's another kind of message I subconsciously tap into it. So none of this, by the way, was like manufactured just to try and sell more sofas. It's really is kind of just how been, how I've sort of tried to look at my own career and what I want out of life and stuff. And,
Hmm.
um, it's hard to create and make a living from that. And, um, you know, but it's those people that I've been really inspired by. And like, how can I, musicians, artists, ceramicists, surfers,
Hmm.
people that have kind of created clothing lines or been successful in creative field. They're just like, you stick it out. You've got to go through some hard shit to start
Hmm.
getting a bit of traction, but it often fights against, I think, the creative way of thinking, which is, it's becomes commercial, and that's not the bit that you got in it for. But then,
Hmm.
it's a bit of a dichotomy, because you kind of got to accept some of that,
Hmm.
um, uh, the bit that you're not so good at, maybe, or the bit that you don't find so comfortable with, and I put
Yeah.
myself in that category that you kind of, but by doing that, getting better at that, and treating that as a bit of a craft as well. Looking at it in the same way of like, okay, how can I learn a bit more about marketing, or a bit more about sales, or a bit more about selling online, which isn't something that's directly creative, but if you approach it in the same way you might a creative project, then it can be, and they're the things that kind of actually make it easier to continue doing creative stuff for a living, and to sustainably kind of keep it alive. And but also it's just some of the best kind of entrepreneurs or business owners or brand founders were great creative thinkers, and it is very creative. And I'm dyslexic, and a lot of people that have been successful with their own brands are dyslexic too. I think it's such a great if you can strike the balance, then it can be can work. And I think there's a track record.
It wasn't isn't Richard Branson? I think he was. I think he's dyslexic.
I mean, even Einstein wasn't he? And a lot of I think it's just being able to see a problem differently, and then not being afraid to kind of go, I'm going to knock on that door and ask for that lab or that supplier. And the vision, I think you don't sometimes be like, I mean, it's natural. People kind of want to go like, oh, well, what if you do that and that happens? I mean, it's like, well, what if I do that and it doesn't happen, and even something even better happens? And I think that's a muscle you need to work at, or one you always need to be aware of. But it's you had to fight that little voice that's like, well, what if that all fails? And it's like, well, actually, what if it doesn't? And it's really cool, And I think that keeps, because you sometimes when you've had a bad day or a few things go wrong, and it can be that's the voice that creeps in, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'm a bit nuts just selling sofas online. But you soon get kind of like cited
maybe and sometimes if that voice comes into your head that says you're nuts for selling online, okay, maybe I am, but it's the people who are nuts that are the people that make things happen. So
and then I think that's
sometimes you have to flip it. Sometimes you have to flip the voice in your head and meet it halfway. Like, okay, maybe I am a bit crazy, but it's the crazy people that are making shit happen. So
and if they can, what are they doing that is any different? At the end of the day, we're kind of like, we're all a sort of, and the internet has kind of become, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but there's a lot more opportunity to to create something, put it out there, and get it seen than ever before. And there's a lot of mental barriers that stop, and financial ones that kind of stop things happening and want to kind of naturally stop things from happening. And the internet is a bit of a weird, dark place, but it's easier than ever. And I think those people probably before had more challenges, to get visible. But it depends on what you want. I think I'm not too focused about being, for me, I just want the kind of the product to do well, and for that to be seen, and don't really care about personally, but it's nice to have be able to get a product that you've designed in lockdown, with your mate, with an upholsterer that's on Facebook Marketplace, and that to be then something that you've kind of evolved and just tried once and then gone, oh, well, maybe this other people want this. And that the internet being a place now that, well, the sky's the limit. If I clean this up a bit and put the brand around and think a little bit more in depth about what this is, where it belongs, and is it good quality? Is it the right price? Is it, is there a business in this? If I continue with it, then it's amazing what can happen with nowadays in this world. Just putting our work out there, whether it's your work, the podcast, or a sofa bed, or a piece of art, or some music. It just blows my mind. And Um, I think something like Shopify and Facebook ads and Instagram, TikTok, all of that, they're tools and platforms, and yeah, they have their bad sides, but if you know how to use them and you
Hmm.
kind of play the game a bit, it can
Yeah.
yeah, it's not always the easiest because I'm not kind of biggest fan of social media, but it's at the end of the day, I just
Hmm.
look at it as like, I do also think about other, my partner as well. She has her business, and part of the slow thing is like, well, I want to work with other creatives, and I'm quite passionate about helping others maybe get their thing going. And what were a few things that helped me that I could potentially pass on or share or say, look, this
Hmm.
worked for me, so maybe try this
Hmm.
for that, or and equally learn from other people that you know
But you know what's crazy?
what's that.
If you if you let an obstacle stop you,
Mm.
you won't be able to help the
Yeah,
next person.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, that's it. It's so easy to give advice, but have you actually really gone through the challenge yourself to be able to warrant the
to
advice? And I
to
think
be
about
able
that.
to yeah, to communicate.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, you have to have, and I've started doing this as well. It's like kind of asking, anyone for advice or thinking, but it's like, have they actually kind of run a business or been in a position that I'm trying to get to? And it's
Hmm.
actually becomes a lot kind of freeing when you're like, oh, I don't need to listen to that person's opinion, or I don't need to kind of take that on board, because as much as I appreciate their perspective, which is different
Hmm.
to, um, well, I don't know, opinion and perspective, but you know what I'm saying? If they've achieved or been through what you've been through, then that's a great place to source
Hmm.
advice. Sometimes taking on
Hmm.
advice and spending a week thinking about that, then realizing actually that person's not actually been in the shoes that I want to go, or where I want to head, or the challenge I'm facing, and it's completely. But it might be helpful, but it might also be something that can just hold you back as much as help you. So I think
Hmm.
you've got to be careful of like who you're taking advice from.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and someone that you kind of can relate to, I guess, as well, that gets it. Because
yeah,
some
yeah.
people also don't like the product, and they're like, "Oh, that's yeah, it's not for me. I think this." It's like, well, that's you're not the customer.
Hmm.
So yeah, I take on the perspective, but is it the right kind of thing I need to be thinking about for my decision making? I mean, I listen to
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
but I think when you do that, also it can become, like you say, you can never do it. Sometimes it can stop you completely doing it. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and, and I've definitely been guilty of being too like letting opinions kind of form a prejudice or a judgment
Strong.
about what could happen, and sometimes just
Yeah.
letting go and just going for it and just seeing where that
Hmm.
inertia or um, momentum takes you. Because that's when you're
Yeah.
taking action and you're doing stuff. That's when like that cold email comes in, someone DMs you, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
like I'm doing stuff, and things are happening back. And the more you do stuff, and this is the kind of thing I was saying earlier, where I want to rest and I want to relax, but actually when you are doing things, it's actually more, in a way, it's more kind of um, uh, reassuring or relaxing, because relaxing is not probably the right word, but when you're doing stuff and you are kind of uh, making things happen, then there's a reaction to that action, and other
Hmm.
opportunities happen, or a brand reaches out, or another customer finds you, or you go onto a podcast, or you meet a new person that's really interested in what you're doing, and you just have to keep moving, but
Hmm.
at the same time that can cause a lot of fatigue, and it can be tiring if you don't look after yourself. But it's this kind of constant balance,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
always
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Because rest is very. I've realized that this year rest is like extremely important.
oh, it's everything. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
doing nothing can actually lead to so many great things.
Mm,
You know,
yeah, and you get your
because
best idea. Yeah,
when you're well rested and you have your brain has a lot more clarity, as
Mm.
well. So many different ideas can just start coming that don't necessarily come when you're constantly doing things,
Yeah, 100%. You can
So
be
rest is good.
thinking about an idea for weeks, having not rested or taken time and just chilled out for a bit, and then the next day, if you rest a bit, all that mental fog and chatter kind of can actually clear. You go, what was I even
Yeah,
thinking about for 2 weeks?
yeah.
I'm now really clear on where I want to go, and it's hard to find, but that's kind of, I guess, what I'm trying to talk about. All this stuff is what I'm talking about. If you do that a bit more, your best ideas come, and that doesn't have to be sat on a
Hmm.
sofa. It could be in the shower. It could be a bike ride. It could be on the tube.
Yeah, it could be.
No,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
could be listening to a podcast. But it's whatever
Hmm.
you call rest, and
Hmm.
that's, I think, a when you see it more now being branded and marketed in like wellness and things like that. But
Hmm.
um, I think it's something that, you know, speaking from experience, I haven't prioritized so much maybe sometimes, and
Yeah.
you know, I think the pandemic, as bad as that has been for a lot of people, there was this kind of it was the first time society really just stopped and had a bit of a look around and thought, God,
Yeah.
modern life's a bit
What's really happening?
rushed, isn't it? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we found it quite hard to adjust. I think back, obviously it's been a long time, but um, it does mean we've had a taste for a slower life, and I think people kind of
Hmm.
understand what that means a bit more now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, I think, what I want and kind of things I want to prioritize. But I speak for myself,
Yeah.
it's different for everybody, but I
Yeah.
think that's why I call it slow living. It was a bit of a reminder of the time it started in, a bit of a reminder of, um, what how it can feel like when you just take it a bit easy or tap into the
Hmm.
thing that you really want to do. I think a lot of
Hmm.
people at that time picked up ceramics, picked up baking bread, whatever it was, picked up running, cycling, something new, and everyone had a bit of a chance to be creative and try something different, and that was really cool.
Hmm.
So that was a positive that came out of it. But
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, it's not wishing for another pandemic at all, but it is kind of nice that you get
Yeah.
we all got a bit of a time, you know, despite the lockdowns, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was a weird time.
I
But
guess you just gotta.
I wouldn't have started the sofas without it. So there's some gratitude towards
Yeah.
that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it can come across a bit. Um,
Yeah. And that's where you use a disruption to your advantage.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You use. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I was
been
reading. Yeah.
sorry.
I'm reading this. Mischief.
Oh, mischief is in what music or um,
No, it's like they're like a design led company.
no, I
They
don't.
did the big red boot. Do you remember that?
Mischief. I think I do. No, I don't think I'm aware of them actually. I just think I found them here. Mischief USA. Is that them?
So MSCHF.
Okay, hang on. MSCH. No, I don't know them actually. Cool. Gotta check them out.
Okay, what they work on loads of different projects that are disruptive,
Hmm.
um, and are creative as well. But there's a book that they have out which looks a lot at different ways in which they work. So they look at there's a lot of different projects that they've included in the book,
Hmm.
and they're looking at their process from like idea to putting the project out.
Hmm.
But there's a part of the book where it mentions Andy Warhol
Yeah.
and how and how he was talking about how business and how there's an art to making money. Like making money is an art. Business is an art.
Hmm.
So like going back to what you was
I've
talking
seen
about
that.
before
I think,
about how being creative and dealing with the business can be connected.
mhm.
He was basically saying that make being making money and um the whole business um process is an art within itself.
Yeah, I relate to that. That series I think that Netflix did of about him was
That was
really,
good. I watched that.
really good insight into that scene of the time and how
Yeah,
how he approached his process and stuff like that. But
yeah.
no, I'm browsing through Mischief's Instagram. It looks super cool. A lot of the projects I recognise, I just didn't realise it was them. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
follow that.
Check
Yeah,
out their website as well.
yeah,
Their
it's cool.
website is
I've
good.
just been on that. Yeah,
Yeah, and the book is on there as well. The book is on the website.
okay, sweet. So you've bought that, have you?
Yeah, so I'm reading it
Nice.
at the moment.
And what's the kind of is it kind of about the process of their work or
Yeah, it's kind of like a mini Bible of
right?
like principles that they go by
Yeah,
and looking at case studies of like previous projects
nice.
and how they approached it and stuff like that.
It
So
looks kind of
like
like
they have one
is it called Made by
the
Mischief? Is that
website,
the book?
the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a grayish book.
yeah, and it's got like socks on the front of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the one.
nice. Um, yeah,
They have one. They have something like a like a almost like a commandment
right.
where they're okay with like knockoffs
Yeah,
as long as the knockoff is like of quality, of high
yeah,
quality.
yeah, yeah,
If it's not of high quality, then that's when they take legal action.
yeah. I guess also the knockoff
so
is
they
kind
so they like
of
yeah, so they like almost appreciate the knockoffs because the knockoffs are bringing more people into their world.
yeah.
They're bringing more people into their direction. So it's
I
a
see that.
different
Yeah,
way
and
of looking at
I
it.
think a lot of brands have sort of done that in a way, haven't they? Where they're clearly referencing like a pastiche of something, but Palace do it a lot, and I don't know, Supreme have probably done it, but um, it kind of it elevates it, and then they end up collaborating with the brand later on because they've just been obviously so
Yeah,
inspired by that sort of
yeah, yeah,
graphic treatment
yeah,
of the brand,
yeah,
and
yeah. It's
can
like
be
have you heard of Cortez?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So like Cortez had legal issues with Nike before
really,
because Nike have the
yeah,
Cortez.
but then they end up
Yeah, so
collaborating. Yeah,
but then now they're collaborating. So
yeah,
it's yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly yeah.
It's
See,
weird. Yeah,
so
yeah.
they eventually kind of had to embrace.
Mm,
Not saying Cortez was a knockoff; they weren't a knockoff. The Cortez is doing their thing, but
yeah.
they 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 were
That's,
like they were a bit cautious of whether Cortez was copying what they were doing.
mm,
I think based on the name. I think based on the name, but I think eventually they realized no, this is the ecosystem
exactly. Yeah.
that they're part of the ecosystem, so we have to embrace things
Nothing's
that are
original. I think it's like
part.
also if it's a young, it's so tricky, isn't it? Because like if it's a young kind of design company really trying to push things forward, when who's allowed to do it and who's not. But
Mhm.
Nike obviously had to defend their IP, I guess, but then
Yeah.
these guys are probably coming from a place where actually it's appreciation of Nike, but or
Hmm.
I don't know, I can't speak for the project too specifically, but it's like I mean, you could look at the sofa, and there's so many influences that have subconsciously influenced me, but um, you there's always something that you can tie a product or a design back to.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, yeah.
think there's sometimes I look at it and think, it's time for the new designs to come through, and the big
Hmm.
companies have had a big part, share of the pie, and you know, um, got to understand that smaller brands, smaller creatives are trying to, find their voice now, and
Mhm.
sharing a bit of that and supporting that is, I think it's important. You've got to respect
Mhm.
what's come before you, and as long as you acknowledge that, and like I'm very very
Mhm.
vocal about that on the website, and the
Mhm.
influences, and a lot of the graphic treatment is very inspired by certain periods, designers or retailers of certain design eras, and
Mhm.
that's what's kind of ultimately made it look the way it does, because I've just drawn so much reference from stuff I love, and it's a place of love.
Mhm.
And I'm not a litigious person, but I'm sure you could find any brand or product and some reference that you could potentially
Yeah,
try and sue
definitely.
you, but like it just takes the whole
Yeah.
fun out of it. But then Nike are kind of, I think that's where they're clever, because they're like, well, we can maybe kind of celebrate this in a way, and actually,
Yeah, you can, and you have to. It's like it's also like the music artist who's established
yeah,
and isn't doesn't feel threatened by the new artist coming in.
yeah,
They embrace the new artist, and that helps them have longevity because
and
they've
relevant
embraced.
as well, and
Yeah, so
the
it's I think it's
culture.
just how you look at it.
Yeah,
Um, Going back to what you were saying about furniture and moments,
hmm
I think I don't know if it was the first time, but I think one of the first times Bill Gates and Steve Jobs had a conversation together that was documented. They were sitting on an Eames chair.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
oh, cool, yeah.
yeah.
I think there's, I wonder
So
which
you
one.
have stuff like that, which is like the first thought people have is like, oh, okay, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates having this conversation, and
Mm,
then it's like, oh, okay, they sit on an Eames.
yeah,
So
and
then
people,
you connect. Yeah, so it's like I get what you mean about the
that's
moments
just a
thing.
cool image in your head, isn't it? Of just like,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
sort of see the two of them chatting, and when they were younger, probably
yeah,
Steve Jobs with no shoes
hmm
on, like chilling in his,
yeah.
Levi's 501s again, like an iconic piece of
Yeah,
design that's somehow made its way into cult,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
um,
I think that's is that kind of how you're looking to approach things, like how
yeah.
like
I think
putting
yeah, naturally.
like
Go on, yeah. Let me
well
fit.
organically
Mm.
integrating the sofa beds into different worlds
Yeah, and
and making people that didn't think that it fit in that world see, okay, I didn't know it could
mm,
be in this world, but it's actually I didn't know it could fit in this world, but it is in this world.
100%, yeah.
Is that
I think
kind of
it's definitely how I think about it, and that's down to the graphics that I design, and because I do all the branding and all the graphics and the style,
hmm
um, and it's yeah, and I kind of visualize, oh, like what would it have looked like in, we've got some old collect old magazines here, anything from like
hmm
House and Gardens to old Playboy magazines, and I've got like
hmm
old Popeye here. This one's
yeah,
got 1979. So it's like, what would if it was around then? What would the adverts look like?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I like to like reference old stuff and think, oh, kind of who it was. If Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were sitting on it, uh, having a meeting, like that, like what would that look and feel like, and kind of imagine it.
yeah,
And some of the copywriting that I've had a play with on the old ads that are on the Instagram have been kind of like slightly tongue in cheek, taking the piss. And I don't want to take it all too seriously. I want it to be something that's kind of, you know, uh, can have a bit of fun, and that's important. I mean,
yeah, yeah, and
pride,
yeah, that's the thing is
old British comedy and stuff, and
yeah, yeah,
things that
yeah,
are just like I love The Office and uh,
yeah,
Peep Show and Fast Show and
yeah.
Partridge, and
See,
I
and
just
that's the thing,
yeah,
and
that
that's
some of
the
the
thing,
copywriting is
right?
inspired by
So
that.
yeah, and that's the thing. I you talking about these things you're interested in. I can already see your energy shifting and you lighting up. So
Yeah,
that's why I think that's kind of your that's your thing. That's like your advantages. All
that's
of these different
yeah,
things that you're interested in, and
yeah. And I
you're
think
bringing
brands
that into
when
the.
be able to do that, I mean, yes, of course they can be inspired by these things, but they're not going to go like, oh, let's make an ad that's kind of, you know, influenced a bit by like a office
Mhm.
sketch or a scene from
Yeah,
Big Trouble, thing like that. It's like, but I think that's my kind of like brand protection. That's what
yeah.
can
I mean,
creative
and
do.
it's right in front of you as well. It's right in front of you. It's
Yeah,
right. It's there. You don't
uh,
have to go looking for it. It's right.
yeah.
It's
I just
right there.
pull on the stuff that I really like, and
Yeah.
I've got really good mates that we love. We always, my brother as well. We just kind of quote comedy, and I want it to be. I don't want it to be too kind of like piss takey or anything like that, but
Hmm.
I want it to, in the copywriting and stuff, be a like if you look at some of the old ads, they kind
Yeah.
of it's kind of laughable now looking back at it, and it's kind of
Yeah.
questionable. You can see the worlds of old, to put it that way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's kind of,
Yeah.
I kind of like, you know, how can I show you that I've seen the worlds of old through kind of writing what
Ooh.
it could have
Okay.
felt like then, and
Yeah.
the piss slightly out of what it was then, and
Yeah.
designing the old ads because they look beautiful in that kind of nice aesthetic, but then the copywriting was like.
Hmm.
It's actually really good, genius copywriting, and looking at like Mad Men and things like that,
Hmm.
the golden era or whatever you want to call it of advertising, that sort of post war, 20th century stuff. That's
Hmm.
you know all these new inventions were coming out, and everyone was how you market it and stuff. It's actually really fascinating, and I think
Hmm.
um, Adland is still references a lot of that and studies it. A lot of those principles are still there because I used to work in kind of advertising agencies and stuff and picked up some of that there. But I think
Hmm.
it's also helpful as a creative to understand how you market and how you position something in a brand.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, I I think just having, like you say, having reference to stuff that I like and I
Hmm.
think other people enjoy, and the
Because that's where
conversation
it's
with
most
friends.
organic.
That, yeah,
That's where it's most organic as well, and you're not forcing anything. It's just
yeah,
it's natural. Yeah, and it's an extension of you, and
yeah.
it's an extension of what you like.
Definitely,
So
yeah. And hopefully, what other people
yeah.
like. So, because there's some stuff I write, and I think, oh, I wonder if another Partridge fan would get that, or another kind of, you know, someone might get that reference from,
Yeah.
see what I'm doing, and I think they do. But it's
Yeah.
sometimes I just do it just for myself, just to amuse
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
yeah,
sometimes things connect with the people that it connects with, and sometimes it's okay if it goes over
well, that's
other
almost
people's
better
heads.
because one thing I've learned through this process is you can't please everybody with it. So
Yeah.
uh, it's a product that people kind of go, oh my god, I've been looking for that for 10 years. Or those other people go,
Hmm.
what the hell is that? Like
Hmm.
there's nothing special about that, and that's fine. That's
Hmm.
not it's not the product, but it's not those people necessarily that I'm speaking to. I
Hmm.
want to kind of have conversations with the people that like it. I know that they're going to kind of like us, we can kind of chat all
Hmm.
day about design or like
Hmm.
you know things that kind of influenced us, and that's
Hmm.
who I'm interested in you know meeting or chatting with. And 9 times out of 10, everyone kind of gets it from the perspective of like, I really like this. It's a product that really works. It's comfortable. It's versatile, and then it's longevity, longevity, whatever. And they're the things I kind of focus on around the marketing as well, because I think you can kind of go, oh, I want to create an ad or a design um, that just happens to be referenced by old magazines, and I've done that, and then I've looked at it and go, that doesn't really say what I want to say. And at the end of the day, you need to not confuse people and just remind. How can you remind people what you're trying to say about the product? Because you can make an old ad look great and put it in that style, but are you reminding them of the message you want to be left with, which is, you know,
Hmm.
certainly about the product, it would be, that it's comfortable, it's versatile. It gives you options in your home. Like you can have it in
Hmm.
your main space. You can then flat pack it to keep it in storage if you need to move, or it's but you can hang on to it. We can repair each
Hmm.
part. So it's got versatility, and you've got have a sofa and then have a double bed. So you actually
Mm-hmm.
get this single bed size and the double bed size if you want on one
Mm-hmm.
product. So it's versatile. And then um, I've said comfort and longevity, that it lasts. We can repair the parts if it breaks. It's something that you should be thinking about owning for a long time, not kind of just, oh, we'll get it for a few years for this house and then we'll sell it on
Mm-hmm.
the Facebook marketplace and move on. I want it to be something
Mm-hmm.
that you know you own for a long time, and
For a
you
long time.
know,
Okay.
and just that you cherish, or you might give to you might hang on for yourself, you give it to your children, or
Yeah.
I want it to be,
See, that's a different type of product. Then that's a
yeah,
product where you're actually gonna have loads of experiences with. You're
yeah,
actually
you're
gonna
gonna have a
spend a
relationship,
lot of time
yeah.
with it. Exactly. You're gonna have a relationship with it.
Which I
So
know every
that's
marketer
that's a
wants to say
different.
and all that, but I think at the end of the day, you spend a lot of time on a sofa. I think
Yeah.
a laptop, a you know maybe the loo, or
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
desk
Yeah.
and your sofa are probably the
Yeah.
thing your ass touches the most. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
we spend a lot of time on these things. So
Yeah.
in your bed. So
Bed. Yeah.
why not
Mm-hmm.
have something that you enjoy? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking again from experience. When I was looking for a sofa bed, I just couldn't find something that I really wanted to own. Like over the years, I wanted to um, you know collect classic design pieces because that's what I really like and what I studied and everything. But I was like, where's the classic sofa bed? Not for 1 minute claiming that territory, but like I did
Mm-hmm.
think it doesn't exist, and I thought, well, I'm going to try and make one, and how to play, but um, then it got me thinking about why are the classics classics, and it's because of the stuff we're talking about, like Kennedy sitting on
Yeah.
the chair, or Bill Gates, and
Yeah.
they're dotted around, and
Yeah.
but first and foremost, they're good, well designed products and
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
well made, good materials, they last. There's a story behind it. The
Yeah.
designer has
Yeah.
had an approach to it, and I've always been fascinated by that. So I think naturally I've just absorbed a bit of kind of interest in it, and
Yeah.
tried to kind of.
And think about it like because I want to get into your trip to Japan,
Mm,
but think about it, right? All of these experiences that you're having, all of these journeys, that all of these different things you're having along this journey,
mm.
people that discover your sofa beds are gonna eventually look into the journey that you had
Yeah,
in
maybe.
terms of how you explored, how you
A lot there.
connected with
Yeah,
different parts of the world in your pursuit to build these sofa beds. So like appreciate the adventures you're having
yeah,
whilst
mm.
while you're building these sofa beds
Yeah. I
and
think,
whilst you're coming up with different products as well.
yeah. No, it's nice you say that, because I think the adventures are really. I mean, that's for me what sort of life is, isn't it? You kind of we can accumulate nice products, but at the end of the day, like I think adventures and experiences, for me anyway, are really what I love to kind of collect more than anything. And meeting different people, that it's we would never probably be having this conversation if through my graphic design work. It's like I kind of really grateful mostly for the experiences that I guess I'm
Hmm.
hoping it can bring, and the people I can meet through it, and the opportunity to be able to, I use the word market it in a way that feels fun. And the marketing is actually just the thing I want to do anyway, which is like, yeah, go and explore these setup production in America, because I'm just
Yeah,
fascinated by kind of the modernism that's come out of there. So I thought, well, I'm going to set it
yeah.
up in California because I love the music from there. I love um,
Mm.
the design, uh, you know, designers and the kind of subcultures that have come from there, whether
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
the Eames or hip
See
hop.
down see
Or,
down the line, people may ask, wait, why did Oliver choose
LA.
California? Then they might, it's because he liked the music, he liked this. Then they're
Yeah.
like, whoa, okay, let me look
Or
into that more.
skateboarding culture. I
Yeah.
can't skate anymore. But I was definitely into it, and but back in the day, like that was probably sort of where if I trace back, like what subliminally why I started a company would be like, well, I love the skate companies and how they operated and how they marketed themselves around an idea and what they stood for, or what they kind of, the graphics they made. And I used to make and paint skateboards myself when I was younger, and it's just vivid memory of doing that. And that, a lot of that all came from America, and the music scene in the 70s, and like Laurel Canyon. Like, I made a mixtape about that on the website.
Okay.
That sort of just hub of the time of creativity, and then the Eames being
The freeness
and
from that period.
Yeah. Just everything. The Laws of Dogtown and that sort of Z Boys and Stacey Peralta and all the sort of skateboarding there and surfing. There's other stuff in the music. But there's the list goes on. But then I thought, well, that'd be a good place to maybe start production, and felt like a natural home. It's not. I haven't really gone, oh, this is the best place commercially, because but also it is a heavy product to move around, so it helps and is more sustainable. I hope to produce locally to where it's being sold, and working with manufacturers there, which has been really interesting and fun, and it's just a nice experience to work with different people in different countries and go, well, I get the opportunity to maybe travel there a bit more and learn a bit more about. I want to go and see Laurel Canyon properly, and then go and see a bit more like I've forgotten the name of the place now. Not Beverly Hills. The there's like a modernist town outside with all the. I forgot the name of it. I'm gonna have to edit this one back in. Palm Springs.
Palm Springs. Okay.
When we get to Palm Springs,
I want to go and see there, and there's just something, be like, okay, well, I'm going over there, a bit like I did for Cornwall. It'd be like, that's
okay.
I'll go there and travel there.
But do you realize you have these different spots in parts of the world where you're like, yeah, this is the space that I need to build in.
Yeah, and because I'm creative.
I don't think you realize how like big that is. Like how important that is. That you found certain places in the world, and you're like, that's where I need to build. This. I need to build it here.
Yeah, and I think I've been inspired, and I'm sure a lot of other people have been inspired by certain areas and gone like, well, actually, when you stop to think of it, like Japan being one, why?
Yeah, how was Japan? Because I like the way you summarized your time there.
Yeah,
I like the way you did that. So how was Japan?
Well, how do you mean? Like when we last spoke, or?
Well, you went to Japan recently, right?
Yeah. About.
Yeah. How was that? Yeah. So like, how was your time there? Like, what was the reason for going?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, for some context, I lived there, and I spent quite a bit of time there, and I got what's it called, a visa, working holiday visa back in 2017, which I didn't use all of. And there's a lot of travel, and I've just thought, well, I've always been inspired by Japan, like subconsciously, again, maybe a bit like, California through skateboarding and music, graffiti and all that. And then the Japan just kept cropping up, I guess, over my life, in whether it may have been like Pokemon or Mario Kart or Nintendo, and then later on to like, design and style, and how they kind of just, they're masters of taking a particular subculture that necessarily isn't theirs, but kind of then almost elevating it and restoring it and protecting it and preserving it, and that gets then kind of given back to the world as a something that
Side note.
Yeah,
I want you to continue with this Japan story.
Yeah.
But what you said about they're able to take a subgenre that they haven't started and build on it. That's what Nigo did with the Air Force One. When he did Vape,
with the Vape
Vape was an extension of the Air Force One, but he added to it.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and interrupt me anytime. But the we talked about this with a friend yesterday, but and also earlier with the copyright infringement. but it's a tough one because you're kind of like, well, where does the new stuff come if you're not kind of closely inspired by something?
That's come before you. Yeah, that's true.
Japan was great, and I was going back there with my girlfriend Leah, and for kind of a bit of a break. Actually, it's just it's something we've always wanted to go back and do. And I stayed with a friend there that I made when I was living there. So I went into digress, but I went there in 2017, and then I came back in
Mhm.
2018, a little bit more for a work kind of trip. I was sort of thinking, how can I potentially get some work out there? I was doing graphic
Mhm.
design and branding and freelancing them. So, kind of that early digital nomad kind of thing, I guess you could say. But I think that didn't, whilst I got a lot out of the experience, I never kind of really found a way to um, establish work there or anything. I mean, I did, and I worked with a company called Bay Cruise on a couple of projects where they're a bit like um, I mean, people would know beams, but they're kind of bigger beams,
Mhm.
and they bring in concepts that are kind of popular in Europe or America, and then they bring that to the Japanese market, and that could be with fashion
Okay.
stores, or it could be like food retail. So, like, particular kind of food trend that's popular here, they'll come and bring that to Japan. So, they'll go out, buyers like a guy called Archie that I know, he would go out and um, research these concepts and then bring them back and set up those stores. So quite often he'd travel to London and I would meet him and we would go around places and look. I sort of tend to just taking him around, show him what he might be interested in, help him sort of produce that trip, and then we would go to places like Copenhagen and do the same. And he would bring back ideas to Tokyo and eventually maybe turn them into a concept store or restaurant there. He did work in the fashion brand.
Okay.
So I stayed with another friend who's called Yu, and we stayed with him this time, and really it was just actually 3 weeks to kind of just revisit the country and explore it, and there are a few different visit old friends who I've just mentioned,
Mhm.
and I think take some time off the business and just reflect on it, which was really nice. But also kind of not that it was the main reason. It was also important to kind of look around and think, well, how could, because it would be a dream to sell in Japan for the same reason
Mhm.
someone's, um, selling in California or
Mhm.
places. Just I'm really inspired by it. So I'm always thinking, how can I connect slow living um, to Japan or Tokyo?
Mhm.
Um, so that's not kind of quite clear now, but it's a lot clearer than it was before, and I've
Okay.
got some potential ideas, but the product would have to. And I was also researching, like just asking around, do you think this product would work in Japan? They've got
Mhm.
smaller apartments, and there would be have to be tweaks to the product, both in sizing
Mhm.
and cost. The
Mhm.
way they consume furniture is very different to how we do it. It's not kind of
Mhm.
um, what I was told, by Japanese buyers and stuff, is that that people don't tend to buy furniture the way we do. It's not. It's kind of they don't tend to spend a lot on their homes in the objects, but that's changing. So I think I'm keeping an
Mhm.
eye on that and whether that can be But I think the product itself would be useful and functional, and because it's versatile and they like good quality, and quality is
Mhm.
super important to the Japanese, and obviously um, the quality. Really proud of the quality of the product, and it's taken a long time to get to that here in the UK. But doing that remotely in Japan, not remotely, but doing that into another market so far away, you've got to really make sure that the quality is top notch. And I think that would be definitely producing there. And I speak a bit of Japanese, but not the level to kind of start producing. So it would be a bit like,
Yeah.
how can I find a potential kind of distributor, manufacturer? So I'm putting that out into the ether and hoping someone might be able to
Yeah.
help. But it's getting that set up is probably it definitely is further down the line. But it's sometimes
Mhm.
having these planting these seeds, like we were saying before,
Yeah.
in action, it kind of comes, it can come back to you. So um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you. That's what you've done. I think you have planted seeds
yeah, I
when
mean,
you
let's
went
see.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, and I just love being out there. So any excuse to kind of go spend more time there really, regardless of
Yeah.
commercial success. That's, again, it's sort of what I'm just trying to do. And I enjoy as much of the process of meeting someone in LA or a manufacturer in California, or um, a retailer in Japan or whatever in
Hmm.
the future, as I do kind of that feeling of, the product's selling and it's commercially viable. It's the process of doing
Hmm.
those things that's actually what I really enjoy and want my life to be about.
Hmm.
These opportunities. So
Hmm.
uh, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it, really. Not as much just
Yeah.
um, trying to sell more sofas, but how can I actually get more of a go to the places I like more.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 And I guess when you was in Japan, I
Mm.
guess you gained more of an understanding of how, well, you've been there before, but more of an understanding how they live, right? Their
Yeah,
approach to
I
living,
was staying with.
their relationship with rest and stuff like that, I
Yeah,
guess,
it's a
right?
good question.
Yeah.
It's funny because Japan is such as calm, zen place to kind of move around, but it is a very is a metropolis. I don't know how many million people are there, but it's huge and it's
Hmm.
busy. But somehow it kind of people walk slower, and it's a very calm place, but it's also crazy and hectic as well. And there's a lot of phenomenons around overworking, so rest. And it's trying to explore that is an interesting,
Yeah.
delicate.
See,
Uh,
that's a Nike and Apple
mm,
avenue for you, right?
yeah,
So where you're not mentioning the sofa beds,
no,
but you're saying, okay, rest. You're pushing rest and the relationship with rest.
yeah.
You see,
The
so
same
that's like a Nike Apple type
way.
message, you
Yeah,
know,
I think
where
I
you
have
where the sofa bed hasn't been mentioned,
yeah, yeah. I
but
think
people can then connect the dots afterwards,
yeah. I mean, I was
you know.
speaking to a Japanese friend about this, and it's a hard conversation because you're not from the culture, and you can only observe what you can from the West's perspective. But there is a phenomenon that is not is well known around Japanese overwork, and I don't want to kind of go in and start kind of talking about that too much. But I think it it's interesting about how Japan within its culture, you've got like onsens and ryokans and public public bathing sentos in the cities, that I absolutely love and love that culture, and sort of really diving into when I was there. Like, I love it. And across, they've got these periods of rest. You've got the temples are still there. They're still very naturally spiritual, whether it's kind of Shintoism or Buddhism. Even if they're not practicing as such, there's still a real appreciation for the spiritual world, um,
Hmm.
and very connected to traditional kind of um, or historical kind of sentiments around. Um, One I love is like Motai Nai, which means like waste not, want not, um, but it's more about um, using everything you have and not wasting. Um, it's kind of a little bit more, yeah, the earth, and it connects again to like
Being
when,
efficient.
yeah, being efficient, exactly, yeah, that's a better way of
Yeah.
putting it. Definitely. And then the so like bon appetit, before a meal you'd say itadakimasu, which actually translates more into like thank you for the weather that has produced the food that we're eating, the farmer that has grown
Wow.
anything
Okay.
from the atoms in the air to getting to the plate. Not just like thank you, bon appetit is just like,
Yeah.
I guess, is more like have a nice meal. Itadakimasu is
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
let's acknowledge everything in
Yeah.
a form of gratitude that has
Get
happened.
into the root of the blessing.
Yes, and if other cultures have that, I don't know, but I just found that sort of fascinating that it's so kind of appreciative of you know um, the the earth, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just very nice to kind of see that and to carry that back home with you a bit, and um, to also go back and experience it, and be reminded of why I feel just feel very creative. And I think anyone that goes there does. It's just such an amazing place, and creatively kind of inspired by it.
Hmm.
You know, you can't walk down the street without seeing something, a little detail or a piece of furniture or the way something's written or the way someone's dressed. It's just, oh, you know, and they're just such a courteous, polite, and friendly, um, you know, society. You know, of course, there's another side to it and stuff that we can dig into, but you know, you're there for a short period of time and you see the best things. But it's and the furniture and stuff just got it's the way the user experience of everything is just so fantastic, and even the way that I like to kind of bring that into my customers' journey and you know, whether you know how we deliver the product and the service that you get is very much kind of probably subconsciously inspired by how you're treated in Japan as a customer. Um,
Okay.
and I think that things like that inspire me from there. Like, okay, like, you know, get a real kind of treatment. Or I still like having business cards, and that's something that's sort of died out here a bit. But in Japan, they're everywhere. So like when I went there, I was like, I need to make sure I've got business cards. And then had an issue with the printers, and I was like, oh god, I'm not going to have them. And but it was starting to stress because it's like actually it's such an important exchange in the way you look at it and you
Hmm.
appreciate it, and it's a real kind of you need them out there if you're kind of trying to
Hmm.
network or meet.
Okay. Was that the one you took a picture of?
Yeah, there. Here's one. Yeah,
That's the one.
yeah. These.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So did you hand a lot out?
well, I do to anyone I meet, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's just a kind of it's a nice
It's a
ritual.
good it's
They
a
keep,
good symbol for them to have.
yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
if you hand one out, they've always got one on them. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah. But it's a trip I would love. I need to do more of. You know,
Hmm.
how to kind of keep going. There is, um,
Hmm.
it's definitely on my kind of something I'm thinking about. But you know, these things just take time. But I think if you plant the seeds,
Yeah.
that happens, and just trying to focus on
Yeah.
that.
Things will start to grow
Yeah,
over time. You know.
but
So
yeah, it's you need to get out there, man.
yeah, I'm adding that to my list. I've never been in Japan, but it's on my list to visit.
And just from like the
Yeah.
amazing collectors, you can go into stores and there's
Oh,
just
definitely.
specific, like there's a, you know, one that comes to mind is a sort of an old American, I think they were manufacturers or just a type of mug. It's called Fire King mugs, um, and they were used for like promotional things in the 60s or 50s, maybe up to the 80s, and they had this kind of opaque, glassy, milky glass and kind of quite distinct shapes. And they've become collector's items in Japan, and no one else is really pretty. But you know, McDonald's would
Okay.
they were quite cheap back in the day, and
Yeah.
but Japan has got a real collector's fascination for them. So there's shops dedicated
Okay.
to them in like Koenji and
Yeah.
just sell these mugs. They're
Hmm.
expensive, you know. They're kind of like collector's items, and they've all got different
Hmm.
like logos from previous, like you know, there's McDonald's ones, Burger King ones, and there's
Hmm.
like you know Tim's tires from Chicago. You know, it could be anything, but it was just a kind of iconic design.
Yeah.
Flash it up on the screen for the for the content. Yeah, Fire King,
Yeah.
and then just you know take that example and just roll it across anything because it's like there will be a shop for you know specialist you know records or
Yeah.
denim and um, design, you know, and it's all really well preserved. You know, like the classic cars out there, you know, that are imported are
Hmm.
just so well looked after. Um, I've seen classic cars out there, you know, that are European, but you
Hmm.
hardly ever see here, or you know, quite rare. So yeah, it's just a real kind of they appreciate the appreciation of design is also just so inspiring, and I think that's probably why I was drawn to there in the first place because it's just
Hmm.
design everywhere and lots of inspiration and not just product design but user experience design in the way that you know you're greeted into a restaurant or um, you know how you're made to feel as a customer and how you um, you know, just the details on the staff's uniform or something. It's just, or where the logo's placed. It's just so much stuff that's just
Yeah,
constantly like.
it's like intent. There's an intention.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's mind blowing, and it's such a special place, and I think it's so far away, which is a good and a bad thing. But it should be on every designer's or creative's list, and I'm sure it is.
list to visit.
Definitely is. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Takashi Murakami. That's one of my favorite
Oh yeah.
like contemporary artists,
Yeah.
and that's the I discovered him because of the Kanye's graduation album cover.
Oh
He
yeah.
did that.
Yeah. There we
That's
go.
how I
Yeah.
discovered
Yeah.
him.
Of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
And then he also directed Kanye's Good Morning video. He directed that too. So that's how I was like exposed to him.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Which one's a good
And then
one?
he's done loads of other stuff with other artists and stuff.
Yeah, I
After
think
that
it's like where those cultures overlap, and one
Mhm.
artist sort of highlights the other and brings
Yeah,
and joining those dots, and maybe through
yeah,
Murakami getting like a kind of different exposure to something else within Japanese culture,
yeah,
and the list.
hmm
And I love that, and I think that Japan really
yeah,
good at that. I can find something that's British or European
yeah,
that I didn't really kind of look at it that way, but the way the
yeah,
Japanese framed it next to something else or curated it, you're like,
yeah,
I've got a new appreciation for that, and
yeah,
it's really interesting to see that, um, yeah, and that you can apply
yeah.
that across all categories, whether it's interior design, graphic design, music, um, fashion,
Architecture.
architecture.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, it's like no other place really, and yeah, it's just there's got a.
because I have an appreciation for their construction workers.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this before. Yeah,
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 because
yeah.
they have the most
Sure,
stylish construction workers.
definitely, yeah. There's real style.
They have the most stylish construction workers, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the
So
can't remember the name of the trousers, but what are they called? I know the shoes are tabbies, aren't they? They kind of got the.
yeah, yeah, Jakatabi. I think it's
That's it. Yeah,
Jakatabi.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
And they actually those that footwear inspired fashion as well
yeah. You see it on
down the line too.
I forgot who's it. Is it Maison Margiela? I think kind of does it, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, so
But
it's
yeah,
inspired a lot of different things
yeah.
after that
I
point.
think a lot of it is Japan is responsible for a lot of things that we probably subconsciously like and buy and listen to, and that we see around us. They've really paved the way a lot in across different subgenres of design and
hmm
culture. It's amazing to see. Yeah,
hmm
a lot to be thankful for.
It was Jikatabi. That's the
Ah,
name.
right, okay,
Yeah,
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 yeah. You need to get out there, man. It's just so good.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. I've added that.
but
You mentioned that you've been speaking with manufacturers in the US.
mhm.
Like, how's that been going? Has that led
Well,
to anything?
yeah,
Has that
yeah,
gone?
it's good. It's still in the works, and um, I guess I'm kind of just what I, we're going through like a round of sampling at the moment. I've got to make sure that the quality's good.
hmm
It's not been as complicated as you might think. You kind of
hmm
um, I know what I've been looking for, and I managed to find that with the help of our friend Google and some phone calls and emails backwards and forwards, trying to explain things. It's always going to be tricky from the other side of the world, but you can do a lot with photos and WhatsApp and whatnot and email. But it's going really well. the thing I'm working on now is just logistically how we get from the manufacturer to the customer, focusing on
Mm-hmm.
LA and California and San Francisco,
Okay.
making that work, and then the plan will be to then go sort of across other parts of it. But it's, even though it sounds great, going to
Mm-hmm.
America, it's still, one step at a time, testing it first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we've got inquiries out there, so like I know that it be attractive, but I think at the end of the day, you don't know until you sort of turn it on and you see. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just really excited about. I enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm.
I've had enough kind of interest from there, and I believe the product would
Mm-hmm.
work. So, um, because it's made to order as well, it's not like we're sitting on a huge amount of stock and
Okay.
it's not a big investment. So
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
these things
Yeah. Yeah.
quite sort of like
As they're
um,
requested.
as and required. Yeah. But again, you've got, there's a level of emotional investment to kind of go, right. Well, I've got to kind of set up. I've got to find delivery partners and
Mm-hmm.
um, you know the manufacturers. So you've got to do all
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not having to invest upfront into a lot, so I can test it. If it
Okay.
works, if not, I'll kind of go, okay,
Yeah.
I'll focus a bit more on the UK or a different part of the
Mm-hmm.
US. But it's always been part of the plan to be able to sell there. And
Okay.
the UK is going well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, just excited. My partner helps me a lot on things. We're looking for a sort of more of a production manager now who can sort of oversee a lot of that as well and help
Mm-hmm.
us here in the UK. So yeah, it's exciting. It's taking it's kind of evolving naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, you I want it to grow, but I don't want to kind of overstretch it too much. I don't want it to be organic. So
Based on the resources that you have, right? You want to make sure you can you can manage as you're growing. You can manage it,
yeah,
right? You're not.
exactly, and still have that same kind
Yeah.
of enjoyment and pleasure that comes from it. It's a little
Yeah.
bit that
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
these moments where it's like, oh, it's going well. There's more work to do. You're like, whoa, this is sort of
Yeah.
changing, and then you get a bit of support. Or you iron out a crease, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, right, we're
Mm-hmm.
good. We've improved that, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
fine tuning the whole process as a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
um, a bit like any kind of creative process. But um,
That's bro. That's why the best thing. I think the best thing to do is to enjoy the just
right,
enjoy the journey.
yeah,
Because some things you can't rush.
yeah.
Like you can't rush getting to the next level
No, I mean,
when you haven't mastered the level you're currently
definitely, yeah. I
at,
think,
right? So sometimes it's I think that's the best thing to do, right? It's
yeah, and
like
we've made mistakes along the way
appreciate every.
in the UK that I'll know to look out for in the States, and um, I know the things that actually I don't need to go kind of looking at that now. We can wait once, and there's an order to it rather than trying to do it all at once. Right, we've got the manufacturer. Now we need to find the product, the sort of the distribute the
Mm-hmm.
delivery partner, and then we'll once we've
Mm-hmm.
got that working a bit ourselves, we'll then find someone to manage that. And, so that's how I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of looking at it. Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
When we was yeah. When we was talking about um the creative side and the business side, right?
Yeah,
To me, within the business side is the building relationships part.
yeah, definitely.
I think that's an art within itself.
Mm.
Knowing how to build relationships,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
an art within
I think a
itself.
business is just a web of relationships, really, because
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's the
Yeah.
creative people that you've making not making the product, sort of promoting the product or endorsing
Mm-hmm.
it, or it's the people that you're want to keep happy who are making it, and it's a relationship between um, making sure that they're getting what they need and want and want to do the work well. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't look after it, then they just sort of put it to the bottom of the pile and they don't care about it. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, not that that's happened, but I'm mindful that if you don't look after it, then people kind of they won't look after you, and
Mm-hmm.
so trying to
Yeah,
keep
because I'm assuming that. Yeah, I'm assuming that the manufacturers you're working with, or like the in the US, the manufacturers that you're looking at working with,
Mhm.
the aim is to have a long term relationship, right?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. So yeah,
the ones we're using
that
even
needs to be
now
nurtured.
for the whole 5 years that we've been making them, right from the beginning. They made the very first one, and still use them. So, that's the goal. And the same with ones in America. Let's hope. It all depends on kind of logistics and
Hmm.
a lot of other factors. So you'd like to hope that
Hmm.
that would be the way, but it's often.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
you want to kind of make sure that you've got a good relationship, and if something goes wrong, they've got your back, and you can trust them, and
Hmm.
that's so far so good. But
Yeah.
um, I think also working with other bit smaller manufacturers, they get what it's like to be a small business, and they're kind of uh,
It's more empathy.
we're on the same page
Mm.
rather than sometimes going to a big manufacturer. They're not as interested in such a small business. So you got to just be. I think it's be on the same page as the partners,
Hmm.
and then obviously as it grows, you might have to kind of evaluate that, but that cross
Hmm.
that bridge. Um,
Yeah.
but it's going well. The size we were at, so I'm comfortable there, and I'm
Hmm.
enjoying that. And it's just like trying to reach up a bit higher. You're like, okay, well, things are going to change.
Yeah.
We can't. It's like I would like to do the volume we're doing here in the UK, the same scale
Yeah.
in the US, and then maybe Europe as well, so that
Okay.
feels nice, and together that makes a nice business that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
Rather than
Yeah.
trying to go right, I've done it on a small scale. Now let's go big. It's not.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep it sort of a few small scales. That's sort of what feels right,
Yeah.
rather than just
Going all out
going all
in
out,
one.
just losing that kind
Yeah.
of like integrity that comes with
Yeah.
working with smaller producers. And
Yeah.
let's see, we'll go with the flow, but that's what's nice. And I want it's as much a lifestyle as it is a business, but
Hmm.
it's got to sustain itself to be able to make that lifestyle.
Hmm.
But
I know you did.
yeah,
Yeah.
go on, man.
I know you did. You did a collaboration with USM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did that go?
Yeah, USM was great. They've been really um, open and supportive to doing kind of a small sort of partnership where I could express my interest in the brand, and I've always used that as a great yardstick and reference to kind of like modular design, and I love what they're doing with other sort of collaborations. And I reached out, and just they really kind of welcomed it with open arms. It was a small little partnership test, and um, I wanted to kind of show a piece that could be used as a bit of a kind of trolley that could slide under the sofa, and then also have a little table. And
Hmm.
um, so yeah, it's a great things like that really help a small business or brand like Slowe to you know um, be seen and to be recognised and endorsed, and it's all part of the kind
Hmm.
of journey of building up a legitimate furniture business. Is that when
Hmm.
someone like USM goes, yeah, we'll do something with you, it's like, oh wow, they see the value in the product, and um, you know they understand that their products live alongside other design. And it's not
Right.
just one ecosystem. A
Yeah.
bit like we were talking with before, where the sofa could be alongside other stuff, um,
Yeah.
creatively
A
or
lot of other stuff. Yeah. A
yeah,
lot of other stuff.
exactly. So
Yeah.
um, that was all, and also just a kind of fanboy moment, I guess you could call, just from always thinking like it was a pieces that I always kind of wanted to own one day, um, and it's just got great functionality. It's well made. It's got a kind of locally made. It's made in, I believe it's made in Germany, but it's a Swiss business. I think it's made in Germany. It's definitely a Swiss business, but I can't remember
Okay.
if it's made in Germany now, but I might be wrong there. Um,
Hmm.
and it's modular and it's designed to last, and there were the kind of like values and principles that I wanted to share, and USM really represents that to me. So when you align on that level, then that kind of again just reinforces those things that you want to tell about your brand, which are
Hmm.
longevity,
Yeah.
versatility and function, but comfort. And I know USM isn't something you sit on, but it's it's got a practical element that's so having the two brands meet really shows the kind of the message that I want to get across, and it helps that. So it's really good. And then one thing I've really learned from it as well, a message maybe or a lesson would be like pitching something to a brand like that isn't out of reach. It's just about presenting it in the right way, knocking on some doors, and things can happen. It's great, and it kind of boosts a bit of confidence and ability to go, oh wow, if these guys really back it, then let's keep going. And so it was a really cool moment to see come to life. And even though it's just a small little project, it was a big thing for us. So yeah, no,
and it's them also letting other people know, look, you can tap into this world. You just got to figure out how you want to do it, but there's a space within Slowe Living's world that you can tap into. So they're like one of the first people that are like saying that is possible.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think so. Yeah, and I'm really grateful for that. And having an endorsement is not always easy, but it's been it's been a really, really nice sort of process and milestone for the business, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we'll see. There's the other things I want to work on, and not just in furniture, but like try and do collaborations outside of that. And so I'm trying to think of those at the moment. But we'll see.
So that's another thing as well, is you want to bring people into your world.
Yeah.
But then you also want to tap into other people's worlds and understand them
the
more, right? As well.
100%. More the latter, really. Tap into other people's, because
other people's worlds.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of people I'm sort of chatting to that be cool to sort of take the sofa and maybe treat it as a canvas or apply their art to that, and how we could do that.
See, okay, yeah.
Also, certain people are known for colorways and graphics. So how can we apply those to? How could those brands, and if anyone listens to this, reach out, because I want to do like my own, colorways of the sofas for other brands or other kind of artists, or I'm really up for that. I'm so really open to people kind of reaching out and trying stuff, and a sofa has been used as a canvas before, but not always kind of something that you immediately think of. And so there's a few people that kind of got some conversations rolling with there that could come to something. But again, it's what has to feel like a natural fit for both people, and
exactly.
The ideas,
I guess it has to be organic,
but then something can happen, or other people are working on projects, or we're doing something, and they need a sofa, or we can have an idea comes up, and we can then sort of apply it to it later. But often all three people are working on something, and these things just happen, and they bring you into the project, and other things just have a way of kind of emerging naturally. And that's kind of what I'm looking for as well. Not everything is always an immediate idea, light bulb moment, but you present the idea, and someone says, one day if you want to kind of take one of our sofas and apply your treatment to it, that's a possibility. So people letting people know that that's something, and then maybe one day a project they're working on comes up, and they're like, Slowe Living, need to get one of those in there. We're doing a listening room or something, or we're doing a retail space.
So it's planting the seeds. It's planting the seeds.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. It's just
being patient with them growing and turning into something big. Definitely.
Yeah. And there's so many ideas. Sports, or
we spoke about sports.
Yeah. Could we do a kind
last time we catched up?
But also, artists, fashion brands, musicians. And also, if someone thinks of things like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool to do that with a sofa?" That
Hmm.
that I would maybe never thought of. Like yeah,
Yeah,
let's do stuff. So,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, you might, and that's the thing. You might get to the point where people come to you and tell you, "Look, this is how I think
can we do
we
this?
should use this soap." Yeah, we could use, like, they might come to you and say, they might not even talk about sitting down, relaxing. They might come with a whole different idea of how they want to use it.
And that's
I want to
sort
use
of that
this
has
for.
happened in a way. Like, and
So
that's like, wow, yeah, I hadn't thought of that too. But I'm really open for that. And let's see what kind of what comes. That's kind of the fun thing. Is like you don't know what's
hmm
out there and how people are. You have one interpretation of your brand or your work, but
yeah,
someone actually is interpreting that in quite a different way, and
hmm
can have something going on in their mind that you'd never have thought of, and that's quite exciting.
hmm and then that's where the sofa beds transcend its initial space.
Yeah,
That's where it taps into different worlds. That's where it becomes lifestyle,
mm,
and
definitely.
it can easily go into different forms
Well,
of
yeah.
experience and creative and life, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that takes time and
Hmm.
network is in like people have to know about it and have to know that that's an option to do, or you have to do one or two of these things for them people to realize,
Hmm.
they've done that to a sofa. I kind of like to do that for our next project or collection or something.
Hmm.
And I think by doing stuff like I was saying before, you then get stuff comes back to you. So
Yeah, yeah.
USM thing, and then that might lead to people going, oh, okay, so even though the USM wasn't kind of a treatment on our product, it was, that's something I'm kind of looking for next is someone to maybe apply the design to or treat it in a way that I hadn't thought of in a colorway. I'd love to do different colorways
Hmm.
or paint it or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, we can. It just takes time, and try and do a few of those projects a year or something would be nice, and then
Hmm.
it compounds over time and becomes a bit more of a kind of
Hmm.
recognizable statement piece as well because it's a big item. So also it takes time to manufacture, but um, yeah, the future is exciting. So we'll see what kind of ideas crop up, and
Yeah,
loads of different kind of ideas as well.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. I'm excited to see how this progresses, how
Yeah,
slow living progresses, because I think there's so many things that couldn't be centered around the sofa bed, and there's so many different experiences that can be created around it as well. There's so many
yeah,
things that can be placed next to it. So
yeah. And I'm
yeah, I
also
think
excited
it's
to see like kind of how
fun.
I've started with it, and then a couple of years from now, how am I looking at it the same way, or have I kind of
Yeah,
evolved
that's enough. Yeah,
what it could become? And then, yeah, I'm up for all of that as long as it kind of just feels, still feels fun, and that's the kind of
yeah. That's the
yeah,
key.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the key.
Well, nice
This
man.
has been this has been yeah, this has been great. I'm
Yeah, likewise, man.
happy we've had this
Yeah,
conversation.
me
We
too. And
finally did it.
we got together, yeah, and then, like I said at
Finally
the
did it.
beginning, I'm sorry it took so long. It's just a lot of stuff
Yeah,
on
don't worry about it.
personally, and it's I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and yeah have a good conversation with you, man. It's hopefully
Yeah,
we'll have many
yeah,
more, and I really appreciate the
yeah,
support you've shown the brand, and just yeah, I can really see that you've get and aligned on kind of the vision of it, and you really understand it, and that's really yeah,
yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
good to have chats with people like yourself who appreciate that come from that place and can ask good questions and make the links that can see the links that I've made that
Yeah.
I don't necessarily talk about, but are out there, and
Hmm.
you've read into that, and that's super cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, looking forward to more chats.
Yeah, definitely.
Also,
We'll definitely chat soon.
in September, so I'll tap you up about maybe we could do little panel chat or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we did speak about that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's great as well.
Keep
That's
keeping it
another seed. That's another seed planting.
exactly planting these seeds and
Yeah, yeah.
finding ways that we can do stuff.